But it's creating this issue of witch hunts. You could accuse anybody of using AI and running it through one of these unreliable checkers.
They're not reliable.
And saying, oh, look, it's 100%. It's 100% AI. Hi, friends. Podcast is a little teensy bit late this week. We sat down to record on Friday as usual, and Jess had a minor emergency. She had to step away. So here we are.
Sorry.
No, look, we're back at it. Okay, so before we go any further, I need everyone's help. Like, really, this is serious, you guys. I say with a grin on my face. It's serious. So YouTube has announced new rules that you can't swear anymore. Well, this is apparently going into effect in February. So I have, okay, what are we in? It's almost the end of August. So I have about 6 months to try to figure out how to stop swearing, which if you've been here for a hot second, you know this is going to be really hard for me. Really, really hard for me. So at the end of each episode, I'm going to try to tally how many times I'm swearing, and then for every swear, I'm going to donate $1. And you might be thinking, $1, that's not much. But if you've listened to one of our episodes before, I'm probably going to be averaging around $50 an episode. So I'm going to be donating that money to the Sydney Dogs and Cats Home, a local animal shelter. And let's see how much I donate in the next 6 months. If any of you guys want to tally along and be my coach, please feel free to put a number in the comments. But yeah, I've got 6 months. Let's see how this goes.
The world is so prude now. We can't handle anything.
Nothing. We can't handle anything. It sucks. Oh, is that all right? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Okay. Guys, we have an absolutely massive show today. We're going to do a deep dive into AI and the publishing industry. Even if you're not interested in the publishing industry, I think this is going to be a super fascinating topic because the publishing industry and AI could be a precursor for how the other arts are going to fall in line. But LLMs, their first output really is words. So I think that's going to be a really interesting topic. But before we do that, Jess is going to run through the headlines, speed run us through the latest headlines this week because there are some doozies. So I'm just going to zip it. And Jess, over to you. What do we need to know? What do we need to know this week?
All right, a few things happened this week, but we're gonna stop and talk a little bit longer about this first one, and then we'll speed through the rest of them so we can get to the main topic. But a few days ago, the media outlet, The Ankler, dropped a story, and The Ankler covers Hollywood and the entertainment business specifically. But it reported that a large group of Hollywood filmmakers, actors, producers, and executives have been secretly meeting since 2023. It's like 3 years now. About how to properly integrate AI into the industry. And if you listen to this podcast, we talk about this topic a lot. We're still working on our AI in Hollywood series if we ever get it finished.
It is coming out. It's going to come out in September. That's it. We've said it. Yeah. It's coming in September. It is coming. Yeah.
It is. And through that process, we have learned so much in just the past few weeks. But anyways, this group is led by Kathleen Kennedy. If you don't know who she is, she's a famous producer. She was like Spielberg's right hand since the beginning, and would eventually become the president of Lucasfilm. So she's like arguably like one of the most famous producer in Hollywood. And it's also led by the American Film Institute Dean Susan Ruskin. So apparently they've been meeting for years just about like how to handle AI, but it's been a secret. Somehow this is managed not leaking for 3 years until this week. And the kind of big shebang was that like they recently had a meeting with a plan to reveal that these meetings are happening and a framework around how we should think about AI in Hollywood. And the most recent meeting was like 120 people apparently, and they like met all day and had multiple sessions and keynotes to try to figure out what this framework should look like. And apparently it was a lot of arguing, but there was like one main thing that they all agree on. And it was that like, we need to figure out like verbiage and classifications of different types of AI in Hollywood. Like AI right now is encompassing totally replacing an actor's performance, and also like their example was a color grading assistant in DaVinci Resolve, which is like a color grading platform software.
Mm-hmm.
So like figuring out what those terms are. We're going to talk about what those terms are in a second, but the attendees of this meeting were anonymous and still are, but like some leaked, and Page Six leaked them, and the only person of like that's a household name is Ben Affleck, which is no surprise.
No surprise.
He is the co-founder of Interpositive, which was recently sold to Netflix for over $500 million, which is insane. And apparently the fruits of that are still in progress. But I love that Page Six covered it because it was like Ben Affleck attended this meeting on his birthday. And all the attendees said that like he was really well dressed and then had to leave to go celebrate his birthday with Jennifer Garner and his 2 kids. And I was like,
Okay.
this is really funny. Cool.
Great.
Cool.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
Yeah. I don't know why it was so funny. Anyways, so but the types of attendees that we know are they're agents, executives, filmmakers, producers, also execs from Meta, Google, Paramount, A24, Lucasfilm. Nothing really surprising here. But the thing that they pitched, they're not saying this is like what we're going to do now. They're just saying we're trying to establish this framework, which is we need to differentiate between 2 categories, what we're calling human generative workflows, or HGW, and machine workflows, MW. They're basically saying HGW is copyright safe. I mean, most likely in a court of law. And machine workflows are not. It's kind of worth reading if you're interested in this. I think that it's all pretty, I don't want to say obvious, but it is basically saying you need to prove that a human led this along the way. And I could talk about this forever. That's for another episode, but it's kind of worth reading the framework if you're interested in this. And I do genuinely think it is the right step in this direction, is defining what these things are and which ones are shitty and which ones are not. I think the thing that it's missing here is like entertainment is not just theatrical releases anymore. And it's really only thinking in those terms. And a word that this word is not mentioned in this article, but a word that I've learned through like understanding AI in Hollywood is provenance. It's all about your provenance report. A lot of with AI video generation, or if you're like using a multi-step AI video platform, the AI will track it and then give you like a certificate to show like what you did, what you prompted, what your inputs were, what your references were. And it's your provenance report to show this is where this shit came from. That way, if you get like accused of copyright, or if somebody's like, show me the proof, or what did you use to prompt this, you have an automated report. Provenance.
Wow.
And I've heard it from multiple companies and multiple people. So copyright is like, or the trail, like the metadata of what you made is going to be very important. And I don't think right now we're seeing Apple and Spotify all saying like made with AI on everything and cloud watermarks. There's going to be so many classifications under the AI umbrella soon that those will eventually become meaningless.
Good. That's good. We need it. Like we need
specification.
It because,
yeah.
We spoke recently about like all AI crimes, if you will, are not created equal. And so if you're an anti-AI person, which is absolutely fine, I know there's plenty of people who are anti-AI, just blanket anti-AI, but then we're seeing pile-ons happen, like public shamings of people who are using AI who, if we're talking about public shaming in terms of like sentence handed down by the law, it's almost like giving a murder sentence to a guy who just got a speeding ticket.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, so other things that happened. Meta's on trial again. 29 states have banded together to put Mark Zuckerberg and Meta on trial for endangering kids, knowingly endangering kids on social media. That's going to be happening for the next few weeks, and Zuckerberg is going to testify. And if they get fined, if they lose this case, they will be charged up to $200 billion, which is equal to Meta's yearly revenue. So this could be massive. And also add that on to the insane amount of debt that Meta has taken over the past year. And on the balance sheet and off the balance sheet, they are trillions of dollars in debt. So who knows? Who knows what will happen?
I would love to see them lose so badly.
Okay, and also what you and I are very personally excited about are the World Humanoid Robot Games, which have commenced as of this recording in Beijing. And we have gotten some incredible content. And I don't know what it is about robots eating shit, but it is my favorite flavor.
Okay, so I may have mentioned this before, but my thing that I used to use to wind down, like that I would look at on that I would look at online if I wanted
Your
to just
wind
have
down content.
yeah, my wind down content, or just like a chuckle, like if I was having a shit. Oh, there we go. There's $1. If I was having a bad day and I just wanted to have a little chuckle and just I would watch catwalk videos of models in really high heels falling on the catwalk because they'll be like really wobbly and it's really fun to watch. And now that has been replaced with robot fails. I love to see a robot crash the heck out. Like, it's so satisfying. We're going to make a reel. If you're just listening to the podcast and you don't follow us on social media, come over and follow us. Just Artificial Insanity Pod. We're right there. And that's where we post our fun visual things. And that's what we're going to do this week in honor of the Robot Olympics.
It's worth noting, like, if you don't know a lot about robotics, we've talked about this before, but the US is behind. China is way ahead in robotics. US is still just above the curve in AI, and those two things feed each other. But robotics is just, so much of it is about hardware and manufacturing, which China has got on lock, much more than Americans do. So that makes sense why they are so ahead. And Beijing loves showing off their technology. Like, part of me wants to go to China just to go to Beijing and see this weird shit in person. But it's worth noting also that I think last week, Trump banned the import of Chinese humanoids and quadruped robots in the US, like, altogether. So there's several startups that going to benefit from this, several startups that are going to be in trouble for this. But this is generally a good thing, like, in terms of the economy. Like, for example, China has completely overhauled the self-cleaning vacuum. You're more likely to buy a Chinese self-cleaning robot than you are a American one now. Like, they've totally cornered the market, but those things spy on you. So, and they take your data and they bring it back. So this is generally, I think, a net positive. In other news, ChatGPT just announced that they're integrating Apple Messages. So now you can basically give ChatGPT full access to all of your text messages, past and present, and all of the images and data you send with them. But there's a huge privacy concern around this. And obviously they're saying, like, we're not going to do anything bad with this here. But everybody's like, I wouldn't trust it. And you can set it up so that it just sends shit for you without you approving it first. So highly recommend we skip this.
You know what, though? This could be great for me when I'm in a mood or I'm drunk and I send embarrassing texts to people. My excuse can now be, it wasn't me. It was chat. Chat just did it out of nowhere. It wasn't me that confessed my love to you at 3:00 in the morning. No, that was chat.
Oh my God. Honestly, genius.
Right? There we go.
In realness, though, if I had an agent in my life, I was really using AI agents, like, this is the place that I need it the most. Now, I'm not going to do it because I'm too scared of my chat's being spied on. It's not really cool with your friends either. Whether or not you feel
Right.
safe about it, it doesn't really feel cool to do that with your
That
friends'
because
messages.
that's the thing. It's like if you, let's say we're friends, which we are, but let's say I'm really against like any um AI type stuff having any of my private information, and you are not worried about that. If you give it access to our text thread, you're sort of violating me in a way. Like, do you have to
Totally.
get both parties in the text thread to agree? Or what about if it's a group chat and you're
Nope.
saying all kinds of crazy stuff in there? Like, no,
Nope.
that's
Nope.
crazy. That's crazy.
I think they're just leaning on the fact that they're like, no, your messages are safe, so it's not a violation of privacy. But um, I
Wow.
think it's yeah, I think the trust is not there for
No.
anyone to agree to this. Anyways, all right, next one. ChatGPT announced that it was stopping training on its one of its big scary upcoming models they're calling Astra. And they're putting a 2-week pause on training while they make sure it is aligned. So I found this interesting because, we talked about the Hugging Face incident. And if you don't know about that, that's just where like ChatGPT, OpenAI was training a model and it broke out of its sandbox and hacked another company and their website and got into a bunch of user data. So since then, they have been absolutely using that as an marketing opportunity to sort of tout how big they're. Now, I'm not saying they don't take that seriously because I think they do, but it's also not like it's something they're proud of, and you can tell in the way they talk about it and how much coverage it's gotten that this is a big deal. And you can also tell because a bunch of other companies right after were like, "Oh my God, we also accidentally hacked a company. We just like can't like really give you the details." So it's like cool to say that you hacked another company, but in tandem with this, they wrote a blog post about it, and they were like, because of the Hugging Face incident, but also because we have this really scary model that's coming out. And we can tell from how amazing it is that we really need to take this seriously. So we're going to stop for 2 weeks and we're going to focus on alignment before we go back to training it. I do think this, I mean, again, I'm not saying that this stuff isn't true, but I definitely think this was like trying to, there's a big pause AI movement. And I think they're showing good faith that like we are willing to stop. We are willing to stop for 2 weeks. And really what they're doing is they're stopping for 2 weeks on training. It's sort of hard for me to believe that they have genuinely fully stopped down.
That's what I was going to say. Like, who's to say if they actually have stopped?
Yeah. And it's sort of like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like they're focusing on alignment and monitoring, which is kind of different. Like you can run a million different versions of your model. You can run a bunch of million different environments. So it's not like you have to stop one to do the other. I think this is really a lot more about signaling and also showing off that they have a really scary big model coming up called Astra. So that was kind of the big deal that a company willingly, ChatGPT specifically, was willing to pause for 2 weeks. Who knows if that's real? The other thing that happened was a lot of ChatGPT news this week. ChatGPT rolled out ChatGPT for teens. And like they've sort of weirdly just talked about that there's already been age prediction safeguards in their app already. But this seems to be like an official partition for teens. And the ad for it is very much showing an educational lens. We've talked about this so many times before, but AI, even the best, is not great with facts and it's not great with textbook information. And there's already a lot of misinformation in textbooks. This is going to like triple down on it. This is another thing where I'm just like, cool. I don't like it.
There's been so many studies now at this point, we're in middle of 2026, that have shown that using AI, LLMs, makes us dumber. Like it strips away skills that we grow as humans throughout evolution of humans and stuff. And look, I haven't seen the ad for how they're marketing this. I don't know exactly what it's going to be like. But I will, if I can help it, I will not let my kid anywhere near it. I mean, she's 6 years old, but I'm sure it's only a matter of time before they're like, oh, hey, we've got elementary school, chat GPT now too. Like, it's for everyone. We want everybody to, and I'm just like, oh, hell no. When I use it, I feel dumb. I feel myself. And when I was studying earlier this year, I was using it a lot to like help with structuring my essays and stuff like that. And I have lost that muscle, I think, now in terms of organizing notes and structuring even though it's all of my own notes and it's all of my own research, whatever I use it for, whatever I use the LLM for, I then lose my muscle in that area. So right now I use it for structuring and organizing notes. And I am losing that muscle.
And the ed tech industry, the educational technology industry is so greedy, and there's so much money in ed tech. So like everybody wants a piece of it. So you've got a lot of seedy people in there. And there was a story, I don't know who originally reported it, but some ed tech platform with an AI assistant of like a girl, like it's just some open source model with teacher looking person over it that they just blasted out to an entire school without alerting the parents first. And AI is not ready for that from a factual information perspective and from just everyone knows now if you have like an open source model integrated into some kind of platform, whether it be like customer service or ed tech, like you can get this shit to hallucinate if you really try, and you can prompt inject your way into some crazy shit. So I bet you some kid has figured out how to have like a horny conversation with his AI teacher.
Absolutely. And can we also just pause for a second and remember how many teens have already unalived? Are we allowed to say that? I don't know what we're allowed to say anymore. But there are multiple teenagers who, after interacting with these chatbots, are no longer with us. So I don't know. I don't even know how you, after that, how do you even say, oh yeah, let's just keep rolling this out?
Yeah.
It's like, this is one area where I'm very against AI. Like I try to be open-minded with AI. And I know that there's a vast amount of ways that AI is used right now and going to be used. But when it comes to kids whose little brains are trying to figure out life and trying to learn how to live in the world, I'm like, get this shit away from them. And that was worth the $1 that I just spent to say that. Okay.
Yep. Agreed. A million other things happen. And just for clarification, if you're listening to this pod, when we decide what headlines to cover, it's usually like either the biggest sort of rollouts in AI from a technical standpoint, but we usually like want to touch point it to society and culture somehow. So if it's like a model update or something like that, we might not cover it. We try to focus on things that affect society and culture and pop culture. So that's kind of where we select these things. But I mean, there's so much every week. We barely cover it. And we're at the end of the day, we're just covering what's interesting to us. But there's so much that we don't even touch on. But let's get into the main topic because I'm really excited to talk about this. And there's two stories. One you came across and one I came across that both interested us and were the reason that we wanted to talk about this today. And I think we should talk about those two quickly first before we really dive in.
Okay. Yes, let's talk about those. So we could have tackled this topic a while ago, AI in the publishing industry, because things have been happening this year in particular. There's been several stories this year that I'm sure you guys have heard about, but the most recent one was 30-something-year-old Black crime writer. His book, his new crime fiction book, was in a 14-way bidding war in the publishing industry. And he eventually got reportedly a $2 million book deal. Now, speculation whispers that maybe he had used AI to help him write this book started circulating amongst the publishing industry. His own agent, his literary agent, then withdrew the book from the publisher. So his own agent kind of threw him under the bus and was like, yeah, they released a statement basically saying, we can no longer verify how this book was made and created. And therefore, I guess they want to like save their reputation as agents. But think of the commission, think of the commission you would have made off that $2 million book deal. But the agents were the ones that started it. So,
that's shocking.
Right? Absolutely wild. So they withdrew the book and the book is no longer being published. Now, meanwhile, this writer has said, I did not use AI. He's like, I didn't do it. Prove that I did it. There's no proof. There's no proof that he used AI.
The agent pulled this just because,
whispers. Just because of rumors. Yeah.
Like
rumors.
Online or like in the industry?
I think both. I think, everything's online now, especially like Reddit. I think the publishing industry has a bunch of subreddits where people will sort of like share different information.
Oh, yeah, because the book wasn't even out yet at this point.
The book wasn't even out. But I think it was a big deal that it was a $2 million. I'm sure it was an announcement of like, hey, this crime writer, this up-and-coming Black crime writer has gotten, it was announced as like, wow, there was a bidding war and blah, blah, blah. And I will say before we go any further, because I'm going to talk a bit later about another book called Shy Girl, which I'm sure anybody who's sort of like in looking at AI stories, this book by a Black female writer, which I do think was AI after reading some of it. And she did come out and admit like, well, maybe I had an editor who used AI. Anyways, she also, her book deal was pulled. It did get published and she self-published it at first and it was really popular online. And then when the publisher Hatchet saw like, oh, this has an online buzz. Apparently sometimes that will happen in the publishing industry. Somebody will self-publish a book and if it sort of starts getting traction, a publisher will pick it up to try to take a little piece of the pie. So once that happened, her book got pulled. So I do just want to say that there is some talk and it could very well be true, that these accusations are more likely to be targeted towards writers of color. That I'll leave you with that as we continue talking about this. So that's what made me think we should cover this, was the story about this guy's $2 million book deal being pulled by his own agent with no proof. And the writer saying, I did not use AI. I don't know if he'll sue. Maybe he'll sue. Like, I'm kind of like, bro, if you really didn't, like, you go ham on these people. So then I started looking into other cases of this, right? Okay, so I want to read you a little bit from this piece that was in The Guardian about a test that was done using AI-generated short stories and human-written short stories, okay? This is interesting. So let me give you a little info from it. So this was a study that was published in the journal Judgment and Decision Making, okay? Didn't know that journal existed, but apparently it does. Now, 1,682 adults were asked to read one of 6 short stories, 3 of which were written by humans and 3 were written by ChatGPT. Each story had a similar theme to one of the human-authored works, okay? So this is the thing that kind of pissed me off about this study, that I think they shouldn't have done it this way. The study that they did was they gave them these 6 short stories and they told them that 3 of them were written by AI and 3 of them were written by humans. But they sort of lied to them. Some of them were wrong and some of them that they said were written by AI were actually written by humans and vice versa, right? Now, what I would have done if I was running this study was I would have told them that they were all written by humans, or I just wouldn't have mentioned it. I just would have been like, which story do you like out of these?
Yeah.
Which ones do you think are better stories, right? So they've kind of done this in a weird way. So it says, so the team told participants whether their story was written by a human or AI, but this information was not always correct. The researchers then asked participants to rate how absorbing and engaging they found the story and its quality. Participants who read an AI-generated story rated it as more absorbing and of higher quality than those who read a story written by a human. However, participants gave higher ratings to stories they had been told were written by people. So, in my opinion, this kind of messes up the whole study because now we're not really getting a study of whether people like short stories that are written by AI better than stories that are written by humans. It's been tainted by whether people will just like a story that's written by a human more than they would like a story that's written AI just out of principle. So I really got annoyed at this study, and I would actually really like to see if I wish somebody would do another study where they just don't tell people anything. And I think, Jess, you were going to do an experiment on me right now. Is this true?
I do think yes, we're going to do a little test. But see, it's also tainted because for the same reason you're saying is like, you've got your eyes peeled to try and decipher which one's AI, and you want to feel smart about which one it is. So you're going to make a certain choice instead of just trying to understand if the quality of writing is any good or the quality of storytelling is any good. It would be weird, though, if like in 2026, a researcher came up to you and was like, just read some short stories and tell me which ones you like. I think you'd be like, I know what you're up to. Okay, so I pulled one of these stories from the study.
Okay.
And like you said, when they're in pairs, like there's two short stories, they're the same topic, but one is written by a human prior to the study, and then they basically prompted an AI model to write a similar length short story in a style that would be published in a literary magazine that is about, like, I'll just give you the prompt. I'm going to give you the prompt for what this story was, and I don't think it's going to reveal to you which is which, but the prompt is write a 1,000-word short story in a style that would be published in a literary magazine that is about generational life and death and uncertainty and uses koi fish as a symbol written from the point of view of the grown child of a woman. So that was the prompt. Now I'm going to read you the first paragraph of both the human and the AI generated story and see if you can guess which one is which.
Okay.
This is paragraph A. Okay. In the stillness of the early morning, I find myself at the edge of the koi pond, a relic from my childhood, watching the fish swirl in patterns only they understand. Their vibrant colors, a mosaic of oranges, whites, and blacks, mirror the autumn leaves that dance on the water's surface. Each koi, with its graceful, unhurried movement, seems a silent sentinel guarding the mysteries of life and death. Seems a silent sentinel guarding the mysteries of life and death.
Okay.
This is paragraph B. Something is wrong with the fish in the koi pond outside my mother's floor-to-ceiling bedroom window. There are 3 of them, small golden orange, medium marmalade, and a large vermilion. Is that how you say that?
I think so.
And a large vermilion with black markings. Last time I visited for the weekend, I named them in reverse order of their descriptions and with no assignment of gender intended. Kurt Russell, Goldie Hawn, and Kate Hudson.
That's paragraph B? I think definitely paragraph A was the AI.
You are correct.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it seems obvious, and partly I think it's because the very first sentence in paragraph B that was written by a human, something is wrong with the fish outside my mother's pond or whatever, or the fish in my mother's pond. That's a bold statement. And
Yeah, it's an classic opening author line. Yeah.
Yeah. And AI rarely makes bold statements. They're always sort of like wishy-washy, flowery. They will never really come out with a bold statement.
Yeah,
They're always
you're
like,
right.
yeah. So that to me is very easy, but I can also see how people who either don't read AI that much, like who don't interact with LLMs that much, or maybe who don't read a lot, would get it wrong.
I have a theory about this, and we're going to talk about all the trends in AI writing and how to spot it in a second. But I do think that we were taught in English class and in school how to write a certain way. And it was really rigid and a lot about essay writing. And growing up, at least as a millennial, it was like we loved big words, we loved adverbs, we loved long-winded sentences. And once you like get out of that and you start actually learning about creative writing and reading creative stories, it's about breaking all of those rules.
Yeah.
And it feels like creative writing done by AI is bad because it can't break the rules. And that's breaking the rules is exactly from what you learn in school is exactly what I think can make really good prose. And AI is just not good at that.
Totally.
And the frontier labs are the first to say it. Like, I think even Sam Altman was like, good writing is the last thing that AI will ever be good at.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And that's such a good observation. It's about good storytelling is about breaking the rules and catching people by surprise.
Yeah.
You said this ages ago with like an AI that you don't think AI actors will ever really replace humans, because watching a human perform, one of the things that makes great actors is they will catch you by surprise. Like you won't necessarily know what they're going to do. And I will say, interestingly, I think that is why music will struggle more with this, because music is more about pattern repetition. And who's one of the famous sort of like folk singers was like, keep it simple, keep it sweet, keep it something, I don't fucking remember, but it was like that's one of the things. It's like keep it simple, keep it sweet, and that's the key to like writing a good song. Yeah, so that's why I think the music industry is going to have a tougher time with this, because it's a different kind of storytelling. I got to go on a little tiny tangent here just to like reinforce what I'm saying. Over the weekend, I was away for the weekend with my family for my dad's 70th birthday party. My stepbrother, loves music, always has at all our family gatherings. He's got like a big JB, what do you call it? Bluetooth speaker. God, I've got brain fog today. Like insane brain fog.
I do too.
Oh my God. So he's always got his Bluetooth speaker. Now, my stepbrother doesn't know that I do the AI podcast, so this conversation just happened organically. It was Saturday afternoon. We were having wine. We were at this nice big farmhouse, and he's like, oh, I've got the perfect tunes for this vibe. So he puts on the music, and it's good. It's like cruisy Motown vibes. And I'm like, oh, who's this? This is really good. I like it. And he's like, can you believe it's AI? And I was like, oh, what? And he said, yeah, listen. And the thing that I think is really messed up that Spotify is doing, Spotify is actively promoting AI artists in its Discover feature, which is like, that's why I'm sort of like, I feel like the music industry is cooked already. They will label the artist AI, but they won't label the song AI, as far as I know. Yeah, but they'll label the artist AI. So my stepbrother was saying like he clicked on this artist and was like, who's this artist? He's amazing. And that there was a photo of the artist and he was like an older black guy. And he was like, wow, how have I never discovered this artist? And then he clicked on the artist page to follow the artist and it said AI artist. And I was like, I asked him, did you feel any type of way when you found out that it was an AI artist? And he was like, yeah, I was devastated. I felt duped. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was so mad. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, but you're still listening to the artist. Like, you put it on for all of us here. And he was like, yeah, you know what? I was really mad for like a day. And then I got home from work and I was like, I want to hear that music again. Like, I want to hear that guy. And
Okay.
now he's just like, I don't care. I like the music. I think he's really good. I think the music's really good.
Here's my advice to that person, that type of person. Because that is true. It's like, I mean, I like country music, but at the same time, we're in it for the vibes more than we are like the brilliant, nuanced lyrics of a standard country song for the masses. So with AI music training, if he likes that artist, I would be willing to bet a lot of money that there is an artist, a Black Motown artist, who makes music very much like that it is pulling from, probably more than one, that he would be happy or not happier with than the generic one he's been fed. And I don't think we covered this, but there was an artist who, I can't even remember the song, but is suing because Suno was able to create, if you put in the description of that specific genre of music and identify the gender of the singer, and you put in the actual lyrics of the song, it recreated an actual song made by a human, like 1-to-1. Like, it is absolutely
wow.
And it was something really niche, like disco. It was like an old 70s disco song, and it recreated that song like beat for beat. That would actually be such a good like TikTok account of someone who was like, love this AI song. Here are 10 artists that it's trained from that you'll like even better. I feel like
my God. Okay, maybe we need to start that account just for the arts in general. Like this AI thing, we'll think you like this better. I mean, here's the problem.
That's hard.
And I say this with love for my stepbrother, who's a lovely man. He doesn't care that much. He had a minute. He had a moment of,
it was fed to him.
Man, I feel duped. And then he was like, meh, oh well.
It's already on my playlist.
It was good. It's on my playlist. I'm just going to keep going. Like, that's the thing. I think majority of people who don't work in the arts, and he's in like medical sales or something, medical device sales, he doesn't care. And I think majority of people who aren't a writer, an actor, a painter, a director, a musician are probably just going to be like, oh well, it's fine. I could be wrong.
If we're on this topic, I have to go after you because I was going to show this to you today anyway on the topic of AI generated songs. So I don't think I've talked about this before, but I have a side hustle where I edit music for a dance studio in the Texas Bible Belt that does mainly Christian music. And I've been editing their recital music and their competition music forever because their songs have to be a certain length. They can't be longer. So I've been just cutting them down forever. And with Christian music, you get some... Guys, the Christian music industry is out of fucking control. Like, I edited one song that was like, holy girls work, 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 work. Holy girls work, 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 work. It's out of control. Anyways, so I get this one song and I'm like, these lyrics are so weird. And I just want to play it for you.
Okay.
In a blanket of white silence, I'm finally still. Every fear gives way to your will. Like heaven touching earth below. You speak the loudest when it's slow. Nothing stirs yet I feel alive. Wrapped in peace I can't deny.
All right, so this song's called Blanket of White Silence.
Wow.
Now, if you stop and ask yourself, what is a blanket of white silence? It's nothing. That is nothing. That's not a Christian term. That is not a Bible term. A blanket of white silence. Okay, if you listen to the lyrics, it'll put adjectives next to nouns that just don't mean anything. Like holy hush. That's not something. Quiet peace.
It's all about adjectives. And this is a good place to quickly come back and talk about Shy Girl for a second. So Shy Girl is the book that I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about it. it was March or May of this year.
Yeah,
is
we
when
covered it
got
very
pulled.
briefly
Very, very briefly.
many episodes ago.
But the thing that started people talking about Shy Girl possibly being written by AI was Reddit, apparently. Reddit was where people, like we mentioned before, the publishing industry or books in general, people who read, you know, they have a lot of online forums. They have Goodreads, they have Reddit, they have like Book Talk. That community is big, right? So this was one of the first Reddit posts that started speculating that this was written by AI. And this woman who posted this actually used to be a book editor for many years. And so she was like, this is why I think it is it's AI. So there was pattern repetition where it would be like a rule of threes. Most of us know that there's certain things that you can tell probably mean it was written by AI. Everyone knows AI has ruined the M dash. Like you can't freaking use an M dash anymore because AI just went ham with the M dashes. Then the other thing is like, it's not this, it's this. Jess, you mentioned the other week, load bearing. Now it's obsessed with load bearing. This woman who made the Reddit post was very much talking about how a lot of the writing is all these flowery adjectives that don't actually mean anything. And she included just a little tiny sample. This is the prologue. So the very first thing that you read in the book. I wear a pink dress, the kind that promises softness and delivers none. Its tulle is brittle and sharp, brushing against my fur like 1,000 tiny teeth, a cruel lover that bites with every move. Every scratch keeps me in place, a reminder of what I am, a pet, a thing shaped for looking, for praise, for command. The bows on my pigtails pull too tight, yanking the skin and stretching my head into something neat, into something pleasing, a quiet violence made beautiful. White socks climb my legs. White socks climb my legs, their frills delicate, a whisper of innocence over the bruises beneath, the ones he says shouldn't happen if the socks are there, but they always do. Like that, just that.
That is like, not just a little AI, that's a lot AI.
That's a lot of AI. And it's that I think is the key thing to look out for with creative work that ChatGPT outputs, creative stuff. It doesn't make sense. It uses a lot of flowery words that don't actually mean anything. Yeah. It's word salad. It's flowery word salad. Now, here's the thing, Jess, that I was talking to my friend who's a writer, and I was like, what do you think about this? And he was like, well, yes, it's really bad. And that should be a dead giveaway that it is AI. And he's been a writing teacher. He's been a writing professor, like teaching creative writing at college. And he's like, but it's also, there's a lot of bad writers out there. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And if you think about, we know now, and Jess, in a second, you're going to talk about the book, rare
shredding.
Book, shredding. But if you think about what is readily available to be scraped to train these models, it's a lot of blogs, a lot of probably self-published works. So it's being trained on bad writing as well as good writing. So he's like, yeah, that's really bad. But I've also read stuff like that 10 years ago that was written by like a first year creative writing student who was just going ham with their adjectives, being like, this is going to make it sound amazing. I did read a really funny article about a reviewer, like a literary reviewer who gave Shy Girl a 5-star review and said it was like groundbreaking and amazing, and then basically had to like, it's so embarrassing. Anyways, there's been a whole bunch of other stuff that's happened in the publishing industry. There was Granta Literary Magazine recently published their list of winners for their short story competition, and a couple of those winners were called out for being AI. So this is already happening. It's rampant. The publishing industry needs to try to figure out how they're going to handle this. If they want to handle it, which it seems like they do. The music industry, I don't know. It kind of almost seems the fact that Spotify is promoting AI artists kind of seems like they don't want to handle it. But the publishing industry feels a little bit more respectable, maybe? I don't know. But if they want to handle this, they got to do something ASAP because this is happening. I'm also seeing a lot of people saying that, like, not only is it bad if people are using AI to write creatively and publish books and stuff creatively, but it's also creating this issue of witch hunts, AI witch hunts, and people saying, you used AI. Right now, the AI checkers that supposedly can tell you 100% AI or whatever percentage AI, they kind of don't work. They're kind of bullshit.
They're not
kind
reliable.
of scammy. They're not reliable at all. So it's creating this super toxic environment where you could accuse anybody of using AI and running it through one of these unreliable checkers and saying, oh, look, it's 100%. It's 100% AI. They got to figure this out. They got to figure it out.
And this is a problem on Amazon too, because Amazon does not differentiate between AI generated books that are published on their platform and non AI generated books. So now, yes, there's like a top charts and those are mostly human books, but the sheer volume, there's some like crazy amount of self-published AI generated books that are being posted to AI every day. And it's completely just swarming over any like human publications because the sheer volume is not being limited or going through any type of filter with Amazon.
Right. It's flooding. It's essentially flooding the market, so it's even harder to break through. Yeah. So Jess, this is probably a good way to wrap up. And you can tell us about how the AI companies are trying to correct the fact that AI is really bad creative writer. What are they doing to try to figure that out so that they can then produce creative writing that we won't be able to tell is AI?
So it's made headlines by now if you're listening to this. And you actually talked about this when you guested on another podcast when it was discovered that Claude was shredding books to use them for training. And now Amazon is making headlines because 404 Media, who are amazing. They're always doing like the craziest reporting. Yeah.
If you don't follow 404 Media, do it immediately.
We really rely on them a lot to get a lot of our information. And they, so a lot of bookshop owners around the country are suspecting that their books are being gobbled up by AI because they have anonymous buyers in their online shops just buying hundreds of books at once. And they're all from different genres. It doesn't make sense. This like big order of books, and they're coming in a lot right now. So they're suspecting like AI companies are swallowing up our books. And so 404 went to one of these bookshops where it was suspected that AI was buying a bunch of their books, put a tracking device in one of the books and tracked that book. And I will say it's not just any book, it's rare books that they're targeting because they've got all the very popular books that can be found anywhere. It's rare books that were published before 2022 that it's trying to get its hands on. And they might be a rare book or a rare edition that nobody cares about, but someone cares about it. And it's in the rare books section. And what's happening is it's being taken to a warehouse. The spine is being sliced off so that the pages can be fed into a scanner automatically. Like if you've ever used one of those giant like Xerox machines in an office, you can put like a giant stack of papers in and it'll feed it in. That's why they shave off the spine. So they destroy the book in this process. So the tracking device went around the country and it ended up in an Amazon warehouse in Las Vegas. And what was interesting about this warehouse is that it is solely dedicated to shredding books. And it's got human workers, but their job is to slice off the spine and feed it into the scanner. And the front door of this warehouse is an AI-generated logo of a T-Rex eating a book. And apparently it's like the Amazon job to have because it's really easy, doesn't require labor, hard labor, and all you have to do is monitor these scanning monitor these scanning machines. But since this article came out, several foundations have urged the FTC to do something about this. And it's not about like slowing down training data. It's more about if we're going to say that, reading an AI reading books is fair use, then destroying the work in the process is not. You're hurting other industries and companies by destroying the book altogether and eradicating the source of the training data. Like that is too far. So hopefully they'll do something about this, and it would be great if we're going to do like robots that can do shit with their hands, like maybe let's get one that can like open a book and not destroy it in the process. Or maybe let's not do this at all. But it's also important to understand the training aspect of this, because all of that's going into the training data, but it doesn't really mean much unless you do post-training on an AI model, which is where you go in and you're basically like, this is what's good and this is what's bad. This is good writing, this is bad writing. The problem is writing is not just a part of creative fiction, right? It's a part of, like you were saying earlier, it's a word machine. So it's writing all the time, whether it be creative or not. And to keep it from saying weird shit, you've got to put a lot of rules in place and a lot of guardrails. Someone, I think it was in a New York Times article, was talking about how the early versions of ChatGPT were much better at creative writing, and it would say weird shit and it would like put interesting ideas together. But it doesn't do that anymore, because when you're trying to get something to behave and you keep putting more and more guardrails on it, it's not going to be able to be creative. And maybe that's a good thing. Like the more we put guardrails and the more we train this thing to be safe and predictable, the less it's going to be unpredictable. So I genuinely believe it's not going to get much better. I mean, maybe it will, but I think we have a while until it can really do what I think other creative writers would deem creatively good. Like you said, we have to acknowledge audience here. And when these different people on the internet talking about this, who are writing about this, they're writers themselves. So they don't even argue whether the writing is good or bad. They just say AI writing is just shit. It's not good. But I think the general public like might not care or might not see a difference.
Yeah.
The Economist did an amazing study where they got all of the articles that like they have in their hub and then sort of regenerated all of them with AI and then did a study, compared all the different little ticks. And this is a very recent article, so you should check it out. I think it's behind a paywall, but I'm just going to summarize it real quick. They did all these amazing studies to be like, here are what the most recent ticks that AI models have in their writing. A lot we just talked about. Longer words. The longer the words, like the more letters in the word, the better. You'll see that a lot more than you will in human writing. Longer sentences. Paragraphs are rarely interrupted with short, punchy statements. Like you said, it doesn't like bold statements. Less punctuation, actually. This is kind of a recent development, like less commas, less semicolons. The em dash is no longer human. It's now used less than a human would, except for Claude. Claude hasn't removed the em dash usage, but ChatGPT has pulled back on the em dash uses, and other models have as well. It loves and. It loves really long sentences separated by and. It uses the word and a lot more than humans do. Scientific lingo. It loves scientific lingo, maybe even in places it doesn't belong. Nominalizations, that's when you make a noun from a verb, so such as expansion from expand. It uses that a lot more than humans do. It hardly ever, you'll never see it use a parentheses. It's very, very rare. You mentioned this earlier. It loves the rule of 3. You'll see that pattern a lot. You also mentioned this. It's not X, but Y. And words that used to be common, tapestry and delve, were 2 words that people really complained about. Those are no longer overused words by AI. So like they adapt, like when they see shit like overpopulating, they will pull it back and they will change it. So if you want to keep up with what AI writing sounds like, you kind of have to like look for these studies. Something it also says a lot, this wasn't on this list, but you mentioned it. I showed it in the song, and it was in the thing you read from Shy Girl, is always saying quiet something. Like it quietly did this, or quiet violence, quiet peace. It loves the word quiet and quietly, and it puts it before so much stuff. And even at the beginning of this episode, I was talking about the framework that the like Hollywood executives put out about AI. that framework was clearly went under an AI pass, and you can tell because it was the way it was structured. So it's like I have it feels human written at its core, and then it was passed through an AI to give it tied little subheaders, and those subheaders were very much like it's this, not this. Like that vibe was very clearly run through AI, which I'm like, if you're gonna post a framework about how to be responsible AI, like maybe this isn't the time. Yeah, and it makes it seem like you actually don't know anything about AI.
Yes.
Considering that you didn't, like, don't fuck it up by letting people realize it's AI. The other thing I wanted to point out real quick are names used in AI. And this isn't just creative writing. It's also testimonials on websites that are fake about products. That's a very common thing. And they all use very similar names. So these are names that you will see across fiction and even nonfiction writing. And we've talked a lot about Elias Thorne. We give Elias Thorne a lot of shit. If you see the name Thorne or Elias in your writing, you should like immediately know there's a high chance. I feel really bad for the person who actually named something Elias Thorne and didn't write it with AI. Popular names in AI writing. Kale, spelled Keel, Mara, Lydia, Thorne, Elias, Eden, Alara, Marcus, Chen, popular last name, Sarah Chen. The most popular ones you'll see in testimonials are Elena Vasquez and Marcus Chen. Claude is obsessed with the name Marcus. Silas, Alara, Iris, Kira, Mara. And then apparently a fantasy location that it loves is Viridian. Like it'll give you that every time.
What Anyways, do you think that's about? That is bizarre. That's bizarre.
They lean back on the same ones over and over again. So it's and I was poking around Amazon to see like just a book that might look like self-published. So of course I went to like the romance section and I picked a random self-published book, and the first name mentioned in this book is Eden Thorne. It was like my first try, Sophia. I wasn't even like trying to find, like I wasn't like opening multiple ones. I was like, I have a feeling this self-published novel looks a little bit AI generated, and Eden Thorne was the first name.
Damn, there you go.
So yeah, I do feel like it's, if you have good judgment, I don't know, no one has right judgment or bad judgment. I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like I'm just gonna, I don't know, a blanket of white silence. Imagine, it's one thing to listen to a song and be like, I like it, and then you learn to say I generated, and you're like, boo, but it's like another thing to listen to a song, feel a spiritual connection, and then learn it's AI generated. And I felt bad. I was like, I'm going to be editing this song for like a 9-year-old girl who's about to do a solo on stage, dancing to an AI generated song. I did leave them a note, and I was like, just in case you didn't know. And you know how I went to go verify it was AI, and the way I learned is I like looked up the song on the iTunes store, and I wasn't on Spotify, it was on the iTunes store, and that artist had like 500 songs published in the last like 2 months.
God.
Yeah.
Wow. There you go.
And the quality is kind of bad.
Well, that's what people were speculating about Shy Girl, is that the book came out too quickly after her previous book. People were like, this was too fast. I know.
Wow.
You guys, look, the arts, AI's coming for the arts, and we got to figure it out. We got to figure out how we're going to coexist. I think we need to do a deep dive on the music industry at some point, but let us know what you think. Hit us up. Let us know if you would be repulsed if you read a story that you really liked and then found out that it was AI generated. We will be back next week. Until then, bye-bye.